You are the person people call. Not because you are rich, not because you have more than everyone else, because you always find a way, because you never say no when it matters, because somewhere along the way you became the person in your circle who handles things, the friend who covers dinner when someone is short, the sibling who lends money without making it weird, the family member who helps with the deposit, the car repair, the emergency that arrived without warning on a Tuesday that was already hard enough. You did not apply for this role. It was assigned to you by your reliability, by your inability to watch someone you love struggle when you have anything at all to offer, by the specific combination of capability and empathy that makes generous people the financial shock absorbers of everyone around them. And it has been costing you. Not in the dramatic way, not in a single moment of betrayal or exploitation. In the quiet, consistent way that generosity always costs, a little at a time, across years, from a person who never stops to calculate because calculating feels like the opposite of caring. You're not wrong to be generous. Generosity is one of the most genuine expressions of love that exists. But nobody told you that generosity without boundaries is not generosity. It is a slow financial emergency that looks like virtue. This is the conversation nobody will have with you. Until now. The role nobody applied for you became the generous one gradually. It did not start with a large sum. It started with covering a bill when a friend was short at a restaurant, with lending $200 that came back in 3 weeks, with the kind of small financial grace that costs you almost nothing individually and means everything to the person receiving it. Then the amounts grew, and the frequency grew, and the repayment became less reliable, and the role solidified into something that was no longer occasional but structural. You are now a resource in people's financial lives, not a person they help in return, a resource they access when they need to. The psychology of this transition is well documented. Research from the University of California found that people who identify as helpers in their social networks are significantly less likely to ask for help themselves, not because they do not need it, but because asking would threaten the identity that defines their role. The helper stops being able to receive. The financial consequences of being unable to receive are significant and rarely discussed. When you hit a financial difficulty yourself, the unexpected medical bill, the job loss, the car that fails at the worst possible moment, you do not call the people you have helped. Not because they would not try, because calling them would require you to become someone other than the person you have been for them. So you manage, alone, at greater financial cost than necessary, because the role you were assigned does not come with a reciprocal right to need. The math of informal giving. You do not think of yourself as someone who gives money away. You think of yourself as someone who helps. The distinction matters psychologically. It does not matter financially. Let us do the math that nobody does. You are 28. You have been in your professional life for 6 years. In those 6 years, in amounts ranging from $20 to $2,000, you have helped the following people in the following ways. Your brother needed $800 for a car repair. He paid back $400. You never mentioned the rest because it was not worth the relationship cost. Your best friend needed $1,200 to cover rent when her hours were cut. She paid back $700 over 8 months. The remaining $500 was absorbed into the friendship without acknowledgement. Your mother needed $1,500 for a dental bill that her insurance did not cover. She did not pay it back. She cannot. You know this. You will never mention it. You covered 3 group holidays where someone in the group was short, and you filled the gap rather than let the group dynamic fracture. Total across 3 trips. $840. You lent your cousin $600 for a deposit. He moved out without paying it back. When you saw him at Christmas, you did not bring it up. You have paid for dinners, drinks, coffees, and shared expenses that were technically shared, but practically absorbed by you in amounts too small to track individually and too consistent to be random. Conservative estimate across 6 years, $2,400. Total informal giving across 6 years, approximately $7,840. You did not choose to give $7,840 to charity. You chose to be a person who helps people you love. The outcome is the same. $7,840 invested at 7% annual return from age 28 over 35 years, approximately $87,000. Your generosity cost you $87,000 in retirement wealth. Not because you gave the wrong amount, because you never calculated the right amount. The loan that was never a loan. You know the specific feeling. Someone you love asks to borrow money. Not given. Borrowed. They will pay you back. They say it clearly. You believe them. You give it. The money does not come back. Not because they are dishonest people. Because life intervened. Because their financial situation did not improve the way they hoped. Because every time the money came up, there was a reason it was not the right moment. Because the debt between people who love each other is the most uncomfortable debt that exists, and avoidance is the easiest path for everyone. The American Psychological Association published research showing that 57% of people who lend money to friends or family report the loan negatively impacted the relationship, regardless of whether it was repaid. The loan damaged the relationship, and the money did not come back. A survey by creditcards.com found that only 27% of people who lend money to friends or family receive it back in full. 43% report losing both the money and the relationship. You lose the money. You lose the relationship. You count it as the cost of caring. But the cost of caring was not built into your financial plan. It came out of savings that were supposed to be for something else, out of the emergency fund that is now thinner than it should be, out of the retirement contributions that were paused for a month because there was not quite enough for both. The loan that was never a loan did not come out of surplus. For most generous people, it came out of the same pool as everything else, a pool that was already being stretched. The family tax. There is a specific financial phenomenon that researchers have identified in families with at least one high-earning or financially stable member. It is called the family tax. Not a legal concept, a behavioral one. The informal redistribution of resources from the financially stable family member to the financially unstable members through loans, gifts, co-signing, covering expenses, and the accumulated weight of being the person the family treats as the solution to its financial problems. You know this phenomenon from the inside. It is the phone call before Christmas from a sibling who needs help with gifts for the children. It is the parent whose utilities are about to be disconnected. It is the cousin whose eviction notice has a deadline. It is the family emergency that is real and urgent and solvable only if you solve it. Each individual situation is genuine. Each one deserves compassion. Each one is exactly the kind of thing that a person with any capacity to help should help with. But the aggregate, the total family tax across a year, is a number that most financially stable family members have never calculated. A study from the Brookings Institution found that financially stable members of low-income families transfer on average between $3,000 and $10,000 per year to family members in need, in amounts ranging from $20 to several $1,000s per transaction, $3,000 to $10,000 per year. At $5,000 per year, invested instead at 7% over 30 years, approximately $472,000. The family tax cost you $472,000 in retirement wealth, not because your family asked too much, because the system that was supposed to support everyone failed enough of them that you became the backup system. And backup systems do not come with compensation or pension plans or recognition on anyone's balance sheet. The social cost of being generous. The financial cost of generosity has a companion cost that is harder to measure and equally real: the social cost. You cannot be honest about your financial situation because being honest would change the way people see you. If you say you're struggling, the people who depend on you become anxious. If you say you cannot help this time, the relationship shifts in ways that feel permanent. So you perform financial health the same way you perform everything else. You say yes when no would be more accurate. You cover expenses that should be shared equally because the alternative is a conversation you do not know how to have. The performance of financial health for the benefit of people who depend on your financial health is one of the most exhausting and least discussed aspects of being the generous one. It is also financially ruinous, because the performance requires you to maintain the appearance of having more than you have. The appearance requires spending that is not matched by actual resources. The spending creates gaps that require sacrifices in savings, in retirement contributions, in the emergency fund, that are made invisibly and silently because the alternative is letting the performance fail. Research from the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that people who regularly help others financially report significantly higher rates of financial anxiety than people who help less frequently, despite being objectively more financially capable than the people they help. The generous person is more anxious about money than the person they help, not because they have less, because they are carrying two financial lives simultaneously, their own and the informal insurance policy they provide to everyone around them. The retirement account. Nobody talks about you are 52. You do the calculation you have been avoiding. Your retirement account has $187,000. Based on your income and years of work, a standard financial planning model suggests you should have approximately $340,000 by this point. The gap, $153,000. You know where the gap came from. Not from bad investments. Not from poor decisions about your own finances. From the accumulated weight of being the person people called across 25 years of professional life. The brother's car repair that was never fully repaid. The mother's dental bill. The family emergencies, the friends whose rent you covered when you could, the group trips where the gap was yours to fill, the loans that became gifts without a ceremony. You cannot calculate the exact amount. The transactions were too numerous and too small and too emotionally complex to have been tracked consistently. But you can estimate. And the estimate is approximately $6,000 to $8,000 per year across 25 years. $175,000 in informal giving across your career. $175,000 that could have been your retirement account. The people you helped are not villains. They were people who needed help and had access to someone who could provide it. The system that left them needing help that much is the villain. You were just the nearest available solution to a structural failure that was not your fault and not your responsibility. But the retirement account reflects what happened regardless of the fault. And at 52, the math has a specific urgency that it did not have at 32 or even 42. The conversation nobody has. The exit from the generous one role is not cruelty. It is not saying no to everyone forever. It is not abandoning the people you love. It is not becoming someone who counts every dollar given and every dollar unreturned. It is having the conversation that generosity has been preventing you from having. The conversation about what you can actually afford to give, not what you can find a way to give through sacrifice and gap-filling and performance of financial health you do not have. Financial planners who specialize in this dynamic consistently recommend the same framework. First, calculate your generosity budget the same way you calculate your entertainment budget or your travel budget. A specific amount per year that you can give without impacting your retirement contributions, your emergency fund, or your actual financial health. Give freely within that amount. Do not give beyond it. Second, change the language. Not "I cannot help, but I can help with this amount." Not a loan, but a gift of this specific amount that you will not track and not expect back. The gift removes the relationship damage of the unrepaid loan. The specific amount removes the open-ended nature of helping that currently has no ceiling. Third, have the honest conversation with the people who depend on you most, not a withdrawal of love, an honest account of your own financial situation. The people who love you do not know you are carrying two financial lives. They cannot know because you have been performing health you do not have. Telling the truth changes the dynamic in ways that feel terrifying before they happen and almost universally feel relieving after. Fourth, recognize that your financial health is not separate from your capacity to help. A depleted, generous person eventually cannot help anyone. The retirement account that was sacrificed to family emergencies at 40 is not available to help anyone at 70. The oxygen mask instruction on every airplane flight exists because a person who has passed out cannot help the person beside them. Your financial sustainability is the prerequisite for your long-term generosity. The most generous thing you can do for the people who depend on you is not to give them everything you have. It is to build something that lasts long enough to still be there for them at 70. You are the person people call, not because you're rich, because you always find a way. Now you know what finding a way has cost. $87,000 from the informal giving of your 20s. $472,000 from the family tax across your career. The retirement account that is $153,000 smaller than it should be. The financial anxiety that runs higher than the people you help despite your greater financial capability. None of this makes the giving wrong. The brother needed the car repair. The mother needed the dental work. The friend needed the rent covered. The giving was right. The absence of a budget for the giving was the problem. The generous person without a generosity budget is not more generous than the generous person with one. They are more depleted. And a depleted person eventually cannot give at all. You do not have to stop being the person people call. You have to start being the person who has calculated what that costs and planned for it accordingly. The generosity budget is not the end of generosity. It is the beginning of generosity that is sustainable enough to last for the rest of your life. And the people who love you, the ones who have been calling, need you to last.